Hello all you lovely cosmonauts, as always I am Cosmic, and today we're going to be reviewing indie sci-fi strategy RPG Halcyon 6 Starbase Commander. The game was developed by Massive Damage Incorporated and also published by them as well. The project itself originated on Kickstarter and then shortly followed an early access stint. The game has now fully released and come out of early access, so let's take a look and see if this indie strategy RPG is any good. The game is set in the future where mankind has expanded to the stars, met other alien races, and they found a precursor space station, which is essentially a space station left behind an extinct alien race known as the Precursors, and they called that station Halcyon 6. Then, out of nowhere, essentially an alien race opens up various portals through the Terran sector, and they are essentially giant space aliens that basically have living bioships, and they attack the human race to the point of extinction. You are left in charge of Halcyon 6, essentially humanity's last bastion of hope, and it is your job to protect mankind and ensure that they survive. Now, I have to say, on paper, from the outset, Halcyon 6 is my kind of bread and butter. It's got strategy elements, it's got turn-based RPG elements, and that to me sounds like a jolly good time in any stretch of the imagination. But is it actually any good? Well, actually, yes, it is very, very good. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised at how well the game plays, how well the overall aesthetic and mechanics are executed. So the game works in very simple different phases. So essentially, you have a real-time overworld galaxy map that you can send off your various ships and fleets to take on missions and defend outposts, and you also have to resource collect from your various outposts throughout the sector. Then you also have aliens who will come and visit you, and you can visit various alien races to initiate diplomacy and be able to earn friendships, which will reward you in various ways, including materials. On the resource management side of things, the resource management is fairly simple. Essentially, you have to gather your resources from various outposts, and you'll unlock more outposts as you play, and that you'll discover them and they will contact you to come and save them. And these outposts work very simply. An outpost will be designated as, for example, a dark matter outpost, so that outpost will collect dark matter, and then once their stores are full, you have to send a fleet to them to pick up those resources and then transfer them back to your starbase. Now, on top of that, you also have to regularly protect them because alien incursions will happen and they will try to destroy the base. Now, if you feel that this outpost is too near the aliens and is too far out of reach for your starfleets to get there in any reasonable manner of time, then you can also evacuate the station and close it down. And it's a kind of risk-reward kind of deal. So, for example, the closer the outpost is pretty much you want to keep that open because you can essentially help them with any emergency in a very short space of time. However, if the outpost, for example, is on the other side of the map, it's going to take a lot of resources for a start off for you to get your fleet over there in the first place, and so you've got to determine whether it is actually worth to keep the outpost open. Now, you use your resources to do everything in the game, from building new ships to researching new technologies. Your starbase actually has a system that is very similar, and fans of the XCOM series will know exactly all too well. It is essentially a room system whereby you have to explore the station, and then each time you explore a room, you unlock that room, and then you can build something in that room. To be able to build the room that you want, you have to research that technology. And then on top of that, once you've built the room, you can assign officers to do various tasks. So, for example, once you research a repair bay, you'll be able to unlock ship upgrades and various different things that you can assign officers to research, which will take a certain number of days. Now, the time on the world map can be paused and started at will. So if you need to change your mission or you need to redirect a fleet, you can just simply pause and then do that as you wish. Now, your ships themselves, you'll have to create fleets of ships, and essentially you have to build ships, and each ship has to have an officer in charge of that ship. There are 3 types of officers, so essentially 3 classes: science, engineering and tactical, and essentially each officer will have their own set of personal skills, as well as the ships having a set of skills as well. So you'll essentially, once you've assigned an officer to a ship, you will have available to you in combat, officer skills and ship skills. As you progress and win battles, each officer and each ship will be essentially leveled up and upgraded. So ships, they gain stars, and their crew can also be improved to add various bonus effects such as extra hull armor, blah blah blah. And then your officers are essentially leveled up, and you can unlock more skills and improve on skills that they already have. And it's a really fun system. It works really well. There's a nice sense of progression throughout the game, and ultimately I think they've done a really good job with that progression system. But let's get on to the good stuff. Let's get on to the combat itself. Now, the combat is a very traditional turn-based system working from an initiative ladder that depends on the stats of your ships. Now, the great thing about it, it's 3 versus 3, and these battles can get ridiculously tough depending on what difficulty you put the game on. I have to say, and I would definitely recommend that you first play through the game on a harder difficulty rather than starting off easy. I think it's much more fun as a challenge to start the game off on a difficulty that is going to challenge you straight off the bat. Any fans of turn-based strategy games and turn-based RPGs will be right at home with Halcyon 6's combat. It works really well, it's a lot of fun, it's not slow at all. I have to say that I was really impressed with the pacing of the combat, even though it is turn-based. It never feels slow, it never feels dull. Battles happen very fast, and the great thing about combat is that you have both space combat and ground combat. So there's some missions where you're going to have to beam your team down, very Star Trek-esque, to the planet's surface to be able to get a mission done, and your officers will also have ground combat abilities as well as space abilities. The thing I love probably the most about the combat in Halcyon 6 is its depth. It has a lot of depth to it. The great thing about it is that you have various status effects depending on what ability you use, and then ships will be able to use combinations to increase their damage. So for example, your tactical officer may use an ability that puts the enemy's engines down, and then your engineering officer will use an ability that exploits engines down status, and then it will double the damage of that ability. And all these different combinations and all the different officers and all the different ships, you can really mix and match to your playstyle to essentially get the one that you want. You're able to have multiple Starfleets, so you're able to, really experiment with different types of combinations. And the depth of that is so much fun. It really allows you to play the game how you want and really customize how you want to play and what kind of abilities you want on the battlefield. And that in itself is so much fun. It's really, really executed so well. It feels smooth. It plays very well, it's challenging, and I just absolutely adore this type of combat. I think overall, mechanically, the game is really solid. It is fluid, it plays really well, it never feels boring or monotonous, it just feels fun throughout, and that is fairly challenging, especially when you're creating a strategy/RPG with a turn-based combat system. Anytime you create that type of game, you run the risk of becoming repetitive and boring. And Halcyon 6 never ever feels like that, which is a feat unto itself. Now, what puts the cherry on top of the cake for me personally is the overall design aesthetic of the game. I really like the pixel art, that kind of retro feel, coupled with the amazing audio. I have to say that the sound effects and the music in this game are great. And the whole thing just feels like a Star Trek game, just like a humorous Star Trek game. And speaking of humorous, the game is packed full of humor. The writing is really good. All the alien races, they're a lot of fun. There's some really funny lines in there, and the entire thing just has this overall aesthetic that makes everything else, all of the mechanics, work just really, really well. It complements the entire game, and it just makes the whole thing a visual and audible, pleasurable experience. Essentially, it is a lot of fun to watch and listen. The battles themselves, all the phaser blasts and the torpedoes and everything like that, it really does feel like an indie Star Trek game, which is a lot of fun. And I have to say that it's really done itself a service by having that humorous content in there, the ability to poke fun at itself, poke fun at the genre, poke fun at certain TV shows and pop culture references, and ultimately it just adds a bit of charm and character to the overall experience. In the end, I have to say that I heartily recommend Halcyon 6. I think it is such a fun game that is well executed from start to finish. It is a lot of fun. People who like strategy games, who like turn-based RPGs, are going to absolutely love this game, and I think as indie games go, this is one of the best I have played this year. Certainly one of the most funnest, and certainly one of the most well executed games that I've played this year. And I think that this is definitely one for your collection, and ultimately it's a game that deserves every success that it has. And that is my review of Halcyon 6 Starbase Commander. Thank you so much for watching and listening. As always, do like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what your thoughts are on the game, and I will see you next time.